Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kina and this is She's Altered. Thanks for tuning in to another video. If you like hearing about all things related to Jesus, mental health, and natural hair, then go on ahead and hit the subscribe button below and go on ahead and join the family. And after you finish watching this video, if you have another second, go on ahead and check out some of my old videos that I posted. Ooh, this is going to be hard. So today, as you can see in the title, I'm going to be talking about why don't people come forward and my Me Too testimony. Oh man. Man. If you see me looking down, I had to take notes that way I can keep myself on track of what I'm going to talk about today. And if I happen to cough in the middle, just please bear with me. I'm a little bit under the weather. I just want to put out there real quick before we continue on in this video, I'm putting a big trigger warning out in this video. I don't know what you may have been through or what you have gone through, or if you know somebody who may have gone through something similar to what it is I'm going to talk about. I just want to put it out there, a very trigger warning. So if you are not prepared and if you are not strong enough emotionally and mentally, you know, to watch my video, because that might trigger up some memories or bring up something within you, then I would just say, you know what, I still love you, you know, leave a like on the video, but just click on out of it, because I don't want to, you know, I don't want to stir up anything in you that you're not ready to address yet. So trigger warning. So why am I making this video? Honestly, I would really rather not make this video. I really wouldn't. I don't, but you know, Jesus told me to. And especially with everything that's kind of going on in our country right now, and a lot of, you know, social topics that are being talked about, I feel like now is probably why Jesus wants me to talk about it right now. So I wasn't planning on talking about this until a whole lot later, but you know, it's time to talk about it. And another reason that I'm talking about it, not only because, you know, I'm just being obedient because Jesus told me to, but because I know that, you know, the truth can really set people free. I mean, we can see in Revelations 12:11, that it says that we shall overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And so we all have testimonies, whether we wanted them or not. We all have testimonies, and I believe that by just me, you know, my transparency, me opening up to y'all and talking to y'all about certain things that are just hard topics, I think that you guys will be able to be blessed by it, and somebody, you know, even if it's just one person, somebody will be able to be helped by it. So that's why I'm talking about it. So the main topic that we are going to be talking about today is shame. We are going to be getting into that very heavy, and I'm going to go into my testimony, talk about it, and yeah, so let's dive in. All right, gonna start. I don't know why this is so difficult. I mean, my friends know, my family knows, but it's just like now I'm putting it out there like publicly on my YouTube, and you know how people can be on the interwebs. They can be a little harsh, but it's okay because I'm ready for it. I'm ready to take all y'all on, y'all trolls. I'm ready for that. So I'm just gonna stop rambling and I'm gonna get into the story. I'm sorry, I need to help me get this story out, I need to play some worship music very quietly in the background. So hopefully it doesn't interrupt, and hopefully you guys can hear me, but I just need to play something in the background just to help me get through this. All right. So I'm going to first, before I jump into my testimony, I'm going to give you a little bit of context. So all of this, I'm gonna just put a blanket statement out there. About almost 3 years ago, I was sexually assaulted by a friend, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna talk about. So a little bit of context and background. So I had known this friend for probably since my freshman year. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember. I think I might have met them my spring semester of freshman year. But freshman year nonetheless. And then all of this took place around around my junior year. Yeah, I think it was junior year going into spring semester before I headed into my senior year of school. And so this friend, I could tell from right off the bat, like they had like a huge crush on me, like a huge crush, and I did not like them at all, like at all. And I would have to constantly remind this person, like, hey, you know, I'm not really feeling you like that. You know, I just see you as a friend, and you know, this friend would be, you know, kind of pushy. Some of the times where like I would have to like remind them every so often, like, hey, look, you're cool, but I don't like you like that. Even to the point where like I'm such like a nice and a sweet person, so in order for me to like be mean to somebody, I really have to like come outside of myself. And so me, you know, being kind of nice, you know, and sweet in the beginning, you know, turning them down, that really wasn't working. So then there was a period of time where I had to intentionally like be rude, like ignore them, like all of that, like just be straight up rude. And dude still did not get the message. Like I just don't understand. He didn't get the message. But then eventually, you know, as time progressed, like he was super nice. Like anything that I needed help with, he would help me. If I needed help moving, he would do that. If I wanted some food, like he would hook me up with some food. Like he was a great friend. So I started feeling bad that I was being like so rude. That I was being so rude to him when he was being just genuinely like such a good friend to me. And then, you know, my other friends, they're like, oh, you need to be nice to such and such, and oh, he's such a good guy, and blah 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 blah, and oh, he likes you, you need to just stop playing hard to get and woody woody woo. And I'm just like, no, I'm not playing hard to get. I just don't like him. And so all of that is going on. I'm just building up to the story. And so this was like a 2-year cycle of like, all right, he's like doing a little bit too much, you know, trying to show that he likes me. I have to put it back in his place. Like, I don't like you. Like, I just need you to understand that. So that kind of gives you, and so, but we were really close friends. Like, and there was a point in time where I think I was starting to consider him almost like a best friend, because, you know, I feel like I would be able to, you know, confide in him, tell him some things, you know, was able to tell me some things. We would hang out all the time. Like, you know, if I need to get taken to the airport, there's been times, you know, I've slept on an air mattress so that way he can take me to the airport, or like when there was bugs in my apartment, something like that. Or he's come over to my place and we've hang out, watch movies, you know, hang out with friends. Just so, like, that was just the thing, like, to do. That was just like our pattern. Like, it was nothing, like we were friends. And so leading up to December 30th, 2015. So I just got home that evening. I just got back from going back home, visiting back home in Cali, and I slept like all on the plans. I'm like wide awake, and so I'm like, hey, and so it's roughly about probably 1, 2-ish something in the morning. And so I was like, hey, like, are you up? Like, oh, just come, like, I'm wide awake, like, you want to come over and watch movies? Because, like, mind you, like, nothing is out of the ordinary about this. I mean, this is just like, it's just what we do. Like, we're just cool like that. We're friends. So so he was up, so I went over, picked him up, and then brought him over so that way we could watch movies. And so we were watching, you know, a whole bunch of Netflix movies, and up until, like, I don't even know what time I eventually fell asleep. I think I eventually fell asleep. I mean, it couldn't have been that long. I think I eventually at like 3, maybe 4-ish, something in the morning, something like that. But so yeah, we're watching movies, blah 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 blah, talking. Then eventually, I know I was the first one to fall asleep, and then I don't know when he fell asleep, but then waking up, this is where the story picks up. So first I'm going to share, so when this happened and I told my closest friends first, the version of the story that I told them was a little bit different than what had actually happened. So first I'm going to share the version that I told them. So the version that I told them is that, you know, I fell asleep, and then when I woke up, he had his hands inside of my pants. And then from there, you know, I jumped up, you know, went into my bathroom wondering like what the heck is going on, and like being really confused. And then eventually, like, you know, after then I drove him like halfway home, but then on the way home, like, I like kicked him out of my car because it was still like all processing everything and stuff what happened. So yeah, basically, like, I told my friends like the truth, but it wasn't completely the truth, because there was like a lot of details and a lot of things that I was leaving out. And I only, like, this happened in 2015, and I only barely barely started saying like the truth like earlier this year. And like I only told my family like a couple of months ago what happened, and then my close friends like a couple of months before that. So this is still like saying this version, the true version, is still very new and very fresh. But the reason why I even told the other version is because I was telling the shame-filled version, the version that, you know, was, I could tell the story without for me not having to accept the truth and the fullness of what happened. Because honestly, I was scared of the truth. I was still kind of confused on the situation, because it's only up until recently that I even say like, oh yeah, I was sexually assaulted someone. Like I couldn't even like fathom in my mind that is what had took place. So I was scared of the truth. I was scared of the truth like to myself. I was scared of other people hearing the truth, thinking that they would judge me, that they would not think that it was that big of a deal, that they would blame me for it, just all of that. I didn't think that anybody would believe me. Like I didn't think that there was like, I had like evidence or anything. So like even if I did want to tell, like I don't think I had any evidence or anything that could really prove. It would just be literally be like a he said, she said type of situation. And so even with this, once I started, you know, kind of accepting, you know, this version of the story, unbeknownst to me, I was wearing it as like a mask, this story. So even as I'm trying to move through, you know, the process of forgiveness, I still got this mask of this fake story. Not fake, I don't want to use the word fake. I have wearing this mask of this alternate version of the story, and trying to move through the process of forgiveness by not accepting, you know, the reality of what happened. Like I wasn't like that forgiveness process, like it didn't really like happen as it should have. Like I thought that I did, until, you know, Jesus came in and like showed me myself, but that's later on. This version of the story was like a comfort to me, because I was able to, you know, talk about a little bit what happened without getting too open and too vulnerable. And so it became a mask that I wore to hide the pain. And with this, you know, like I said, while wearing this mask, I thought that I had forgave. I thought that I had gave it to God. I thought that I was over it, but all I was doing while I was wearing this mask, I was kind of blocking out like the full version, the full story, instead of just the edited version. And I blocked out all of the things that I was hiding related to it. And so yeah, so as I'm wearing this mask and I'm thinking that I'm over this situation, then comes homecoming 2017, homecoming last year, at the TSU homecoming. Like, you know, I'm just, you know, hanging out with my friends, having a good time, blase blase. But then I see him because he went to TSU with me. And after that incident happened, I seen him like all the time on campus, but then he graduated before me. So I had, you know, a little like a relief period where I didn't have to see him anymore. But then at homecoming, I seen him. And so it was then, and like at the time, like I was so at homecoming, I was just mad. I didn't really understand why I was mad. I was just like, why are you here? Like, you need to be somewhere else and not here. Like, you just ruined my fun. Like, now I can't even enjoy homecoming because now I know that you're here and I'm mad about it. And so it was then that I realized, like, and I was like at homecoming, like I was crying at homecoming. I seen him and I went off somewhere and I was crying, and my friends had to come and console me. And so it was then I was like, okay, well maybe I'm like, okay, well maybe I didn't forgive him like I thought. Because also from that night, the underwear that I was wearing, I had held on to that, and I kept that in the back of my closet in a little baggie, you know, just in case that if I ever decided that I wanted to tell, you know, I feel like that was probably like my only piece of evidence. Like, I don't, like, you know, you see on the crime scene movies, like maybe they could have, you know, took some fingerprints off of it and like would have matched like his fingerprints, and that could have like, you know, corroborated my story or whatever. But I thought that because I was still at that time holding on to my underwear from that night, that's the reason why I was so like emotional to the reaction, because I didn't really get over it. So I went home and I was able to, like, you know what, all right, I'm gonna let it go. So I threw away the underwear. I let that go. And I'm thinking like, okay, yes, like now, like that was it. Like now I forgave him, like we're all good. Months later, I'm still wearing the mask, still hiding it. And then it was months later, I'm trying to think when. It was earlier this year in January. I started off the year doing a Daniel fast, and during one of those weeks, man, when you do a fast, I'm telling y'all, if y'all do a intense fast, excuse me, if y'all do an intense fast, like things gonna come up. Anything that you got hidden, it's gonna come up and it's gonna come out. So at this time I was sitting in my room, I was watching one of Matthew Stevenson's sermons, and then God was ready to address, like he was just knocking at my door. He was like, daughter, it's time to talk about the situation. And I'm like, I can't, I don't not hear you. Can I not hear right now? I don't know what you're saying. I'm not here. And he was like, no, we're gonna talk about it. And I was like, oh, no, I'm good. Like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm good. Like, I forgave already. Like, I'm good. And he's like, no, you know what exactly we need to talk about. He was like, we need to talk about what really happened. I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about it. And so I was literally like, it was like a wrestling match. Like I did not want to talk about it, and God would not, like, oh, he was hammering me. He would not let it go. He just kept bringing the situation and the person to the forefront of my mind, and every time I try to push it back, he was like, nope, we're gonna talk about it. And so of course eventually, you know, God wins always. So I eventually gave in, and when I gave in, like, I just broke down crying. I broke down crying because I was not ready. I was not ready to remove the mask and talk about it. Not even with God. Like, I didn't even want to journal about it. Like, I was planning on taking like the full version and the full story, like, to my grave, like, because I was that like shameful of it. I was planning on taking it to my grave. So in that moment, God had me, you know, I started journaling about it, and I had to relive the entire situation and talk about it and talk about what really happened. So now, just briefly, I told you guys the miniature version of what happened. So now I'm going to tell you the full version of what happened. Full version, of course, yeah, you know, fell asleep watching movies, fell asleep, you know, all of that happened. But the full version starts at when I woke up. So in the old version, I said that when I woke up, you know, his hands were in my pants, and then that's when I reacted and blah, 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 blah. But the truth is that I did wake up, and his hands, and he was touching me. But like, I woke up, but I didn't like physically like wake up to where it looked like I woke up. So, I mean, on the outside, it looked like I was still sleeping. And so I woke up, and he was touching me. This time, he actually had his hands in my shirt at this point in time. So when I woke up, he had his hands in my shirt, and he was, you know, moving down to my pants. And so I'm like awake, and I'm just like, and so this is happening around somewhere between 7 and 8 in the morning. And mind you, I went to sleep at like 3 or 4, so I'm like half asleep kind of. And so like, I feel what's happening, and I'm kind of just like, okay, what is happening right now? Like, is what I think happened, like, I gotta be dreaming, because what I think is happening right now, it can't be happening. Like, his hands are not in my shirt right now. Like, he's not, like, what? So I'm just laying there, and I'm kind of like paralyzed. I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, I just can't even wrap my mind around it. And so in that moment, you know, I kind of froze. Because I was like not sure, like, okay, what's happening? Like, what is he doing? And then also what's kind of what's kind of going in my mind is that, so you know, I'm in my apartment, and all of my other roommates, this is still during winter break, and all of my other roommates, they're home, they went back home with their families. So I'm the only one in my apartment. I'm pretty much the only one, you know, in my whole apartment building, because I lived in student apartments and everybody's pretty much home. And this guy is, I mean, football player like size, so he's pretty like big and stocky. And so I'm just thinking like, I'm here by myself, he's huge and can most definitely overpower me. So I'm just like in shock. So I was just laying there in shock as this, all of this is happening. And then eventually I eventually muster up the courage to like move a little bit. And so I kind of like shifted in my sleep, so that way it's kind of like, you know, when you kind of are starting to come out of your sleep and you move a little bit, but then you kind of go like back to sleep. So that's kind of what I did. I shifted in my sleep, and that was like a signal like, hey, I'm awake, like you might want to stop. So he kind of pulled away, and he went and he acted like he was asleep. He acted like he was asleep for a couple of moments, and then when he thought that I was like back asleep, then he came on to me again. And this time, you know, he was straight going, you know, downstairs and roaming around, you know, in that area. I'm not going to get into explicit detail of exactly what, but just use your imagination. Use your imagination. And so as he is in that area, more thoughts are going. I'm just thinking about like, nobody's here. Like, even if I were to scream or something like that, like nobody would hear me. I'm thinking about, you know, if I did move or something, like, because you know, you hear stories of people who fight back, that it makes it worse. And so I'm thinking of that. I'm still frozen at this. I'm still really confused that this is going on. I'm confused that not only this is going on, but it's happening by somebody that I considered a friend, a close friend. So I was feeling violated in that moment. And then what was most like hard for me, like what made it like so shameful and why I really didn't want to talk about it, like, so the confusing part in all of this, while all of this is happening, I mean, naturally, the areas in which he's touching, I mean, physically, it feels good. Because, I mean, physically, you're touching, you know, physically he's touching sensitive areas that will make anybody, you know, feel some type of way. And so that is what made it so confusing in that moment. Because it's like, physically, it felt good. But emotionally, mentally, spiritually, I knew that it was wrong. And so trying to balance all of this, like, okay, I know that what you're doing is wrong and I don't like it and I didn't ask you to do this, but at the same time, like, physically, you know, my body is reacting to what it is that you're doing. And so like in that, I'm just like, what, like what is happening in this moment? And so, you know, as you know, I'm processing and I'm still frozen, then he kind of pulls away again. And this time, when he's starting to come back a third time, the way that he was shifting and kind of moving around, and then as he like got closer to me again, I thought that he was pulling out his penis. And I'm just like, did he, is what, cause before, like, I haven't had sex. So all I'm thinking of, like, in that quick moment, like, I haven't had sex, and I think he just pulled out what I think that he just pulled out. My first time is gonna be taken in this way. And so it was in that moment I was able to like jump right up from the bed, and I ran into my bathroom, and I'm just like looking in the mirror, like I can barely look in the mirror myself, because I'm just like, what is going on? Like, what just happened? And still like processing, still half asleep. And so then I'm just wrap up the end of the story. Then I come out of my room, he's faking sleep again. And so, but I tell him to get up, get his stuff, and then I'm driving him halfway home because I'm still like processing. But then eventually I just pull over and I kick him out of my car. I make him walk all the way back home. Yeah, I make him walk all the way back home. And then later on, then he texts me some bogus apology, and I was just like, do you know what you just did? Like, do you know what just happened? Like, I'm not even. So back to the original topic of this video. of why don't we say something? Why don't we come forward? Why don't we talk about it? And side note, I'm not going to include it in this video because I know that this video is already probably going to be long enough. But if you would like for me to make kind of like a part 2 to this video and kind of, you know, hear about how I went through, you know, my healing process, my forgiving process, and all of that, and how I've gotten all the way up until this point now to where, you know, I can talk about it and share about it publicly, just leave it down in the comment section below and let me know that that is a video that you guys would like to hear. And I would definitely go more in depth about the forgiveness process after this event. So back to the topic of shame. So the main reason why I was never confident enough in sharing this version is because like I was just so burdened and overwhelmed by shame. Just thinking back to the situation, I'm thinking about like all the ways in which putting on myself, like I put myself in this position. I put myself in this position, like I'm the one who went and picked him up at this certain time of the night. Like I'm the one, like even though I know that, you know, he had a crush on me, and I told him multiple times like I wasn't feeling you that way, but I was still, you know, friendly towards him. Like I don't know, maybe I was, you know, showing signs, and maybe I was, you know, giving off hints or mixed signals or something like that to where he thought it was okay. So I'm thinking maybe I was giving mixed signals. I was blaming myself for sitting there. I mean, not for sitting there, for laying there, for not reacting. So I blamed myself for like when I first realized it was happening and I woke up, for not doing anything. I felt shame over the fact that while it was happening, like that, because the physical part, you know, felt good, even though, you know, mentally and emotionally I didn't like it, but just the fact that part of me, even the smallest part of me, enjoyed it, that brought me like huge shame. And then just thinking like, you know, how could I be so stupid letting somebody, you know, over, like just all of anything that anybody else from the outside could have possibly said, I was already saying to myself. I was like, you know, I can't even be mad completely at him because I put myself in this situation. You know, I could have prevented it, I could have stopped it, I could have did X, Y, and Z, just looking at all the reasons of why it was my fault. And so all of that just like brought me shame, and I was just like, no, like for the longest I didn't even feel like I had a right to be angry, a right to be upset about the situation. I just kind of was just like, the only reason I even initially told my friends is because, of course, like I said, they're always like, oh, you know, good guy so and so, good guy so and so, but I just let them know like, no, he's not a good guy. Like he's not, and he's not going to be coming around me, and here's, you know, the reason why. But just a lot of elements of it, you know, brought me shame. And even though, you know, my friends, they were like, oh, it's not your fault, like don't blame yourself, and blah 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 blah. And then of course, you know, there was, you know, the part of me which, of course, you know, the Holy Spirit told me, no, it's not my fault, I didn't ask him to do that. Like even though, like, yes, came over at a certain time of night, like all of that, like I did not ask. Like all of the shameful thoughts, it was like shame and grace were just having a fight in my mind. And so on one hand, it's like, you know, maybe did I lead him on? Did I send him mixed signals to where that he thought that this was okay, where I was, you know, asking him to do this? But then on the other hand, it's like, how can I be sending signals? How can I ask someone to do this and I'm asleep? Like that's the key. Like I'm asleep. So how can I consent to anything and I'm asleep? So, and I just had to keep reminding myself, like, I was asleep and you took advantage of me in my sleep. And then, you know, even with it, you know, the thoughts of like, oh, you know, well, why didn't I react? Why didn't I move? But then it's just like the grace. Like, I mean, I was frozen. Like me, I'm not a naturally confrontational person. I'm very much more like passive, and I, you know, internalize everything. And so for me, whenever I get like overwhelmed, if something's happening too much, I just shut down. And so that's what happened. Like in that moment, I just shut down. And so with shame, it was like I was battling internal shame. I was blaming myself. I felt embarrassed and humiliated and all that in myself. But then there was also, you know, some elements of external shame. External shame just coming from society as a whole. Like when it comes to women who have the courage to come forward and talk about their story, like, you know, if you go and you try to, you know, charge that person or get them in trouble, it's like they tear you apart, like rape culture is a huge issue. Huge issue, not only for women but also for men, but just rape culture. So that I did not want to deal with that. So that external shame. And then I had also told another male friend at the time that I had, who this guy I was talking to, I had also told him what had happened, and his reaction was basically like, he basically was blaming me. He was basically saying like, oh, now you know that you're a pretty girl, and you can't just be, you know, even if it's just, you know, spend the night, you can't, you know, lay up to no grown man and blah 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 blah, because, you know, grown man woo woo woo, and you're a pretty girl, so you can't put yourself in that position. And it's just like, so I'm already blaming myself, and now this person is coming along and blaming me as well. And because, you know, I'm pretty, and like, it was just very annoying. So external, and then even like the guy's friends, they were trying to like stick up for him, like, oh, like trying to talk to me so I can give him a pass, forgive him or something like that. And I'm just like saying like, oh, he didn't know, or some BS like that. So it's just like I was dealing with internal shame and I was dealing with external shame all at the same time, and it was just too much. So like I had said, I planned on keeping the secret and taking it to the grave with me, but you know, then God said that I can't, like I just can't. So like we can't, not only could I not, but whatever it is that you guys have been through, like we can't live in shame, we can't live in guilt. As long as we live in shame, we'll never be free from the bondage of that experience. All that time where I'm thinking that, you know, I had already forgiven him and all of that, like I'm thinking that I'm free from the situation, but since I was kept on wearing that mask and I wasn't, you know, really talking about it and coming out of hiding about what happened, you know, I was still in bondage. Like not only like I forgave him, but I didn't even forgive myself, and that was the hardest part to get over about the whole situation, like forgiving myself of all of the reasons of how I could have stopped it and prevented it and not even got myself in that situation from the first place. Like I had to forgive myself, which was the hardest, like the hardest part to get over, was forgiving me. And then also we can't live in shame, because when we live in shame, we're letting the enemy win. Like we're letting him win, because it's not God telling you like, oh, you should have done this and you could have done that. Well, you must have wanted it because you liked it. Oh, you liked how it feels, so you wanted him to do that, so it's your fault. Like that, God is not telling you that. Like that's the enemy in your ear, and he's telling you that, and he's pushing you, you know, into that corner. And so by him, you know, by the enemy making me feel shameful and putting all those thoughts in my head, he was separating me and distancing me from God. Because like how I said before, when God was ready to talk about it, me and God, we was going back and forth. I was fighting because I did not want to talk about it, like at all. I did not want to address it. I was gonna take it to my grave. Like nobody was gonna know. Everybody was just gonna know the sugar-coated version of what happened and not the real version. So when we live in shame and when we don't, you know, walk in our truth, we're letting the enemy win. And then not only that, when we choose to live in shame, like who's really being affected here? So he probably just going living his life, something like that, but I'm the one over here, you know, suffering and dealing with it. I'm the one who, you know, like I'm an affectionate person, but I don't want people to get like too close. And like from that point on, like when it came to making guy friends, nope, I don't want no guy friends. Like I just want females all around me. Like I'm good. So when you're living in shame, like who's the person who's really suffering here? You or them? And then just one of my favorite verses of just this entire season is 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of sound mind. But so let's use that scripture and let's compare it to when you're living in shame. So if we're living in fear, then we don't have power. The person who did that to us has the power over us. Because when you're living in shame and you're living in fear, you know, you're just thinking about, you know, how to, so that, you know, nobody can know about what really happened, and you know, you may be avoiding that person and blah blah blah. Like they have power over you. So when you're living in shame, you don't have power. You don't. Also, when you're living in shame, which is like, you know, and self-condemnation, you also don't have love, because you're not showing love to yourself. Because we're supposed to love God and love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And so I'm already violating, you know, the most important commandment. Like, I'm not loving myself, you know, walking in shame. And then lastly, like, we surely don't have a sound mind. Like, surely we don't, because when we are constantly, you know, those thoughts and those emotions and those memories are keeping us in bondage when we live in shame. Because, like, I mean, we're putting out so much energy to try to not think about the situation, to try to not remember what happened. Whenever the emotions, whenever something triggers, you know, an emotion that reminds us of that, we're trying to, like, you know, suppress it. And, you know, some people, they turn to other outlets, you know, to suppress, you know, memories, thoughts, and emotions. Now, thank God, you know, that he kept me from, you know, wanting to turn to something else, you know, to try to suppress that. But when you're living in shame, like, you don't have a sound mind. Like, you are enslaved by all of those thoughts, all of those memories, and all of those emotions. And so, the point of this video is to, one, share my testimony. Hopefully there's some, by my courage and my strength of talking about it, that I would encourage you. And I just want to remind you guys that God will never shame you. Even if you shame and blame yourself, even if the world and outside people shame and blame you, like, God will never shame you, never make you feel like something was your fault, never point the finger at you. Like, mind you, he was there already when it was happening. You know, he was with you. And I just thank God that he was there, because I can only imagine, like, how much worse it could have got. Because clearly, I mean, by this happening, I thought that I knew this person as a friend, but clearly I didn't know them for them to do something like this. So I can only imagine, like, nobody was home, barely anybody was in my apartment complex. So I can only think, like, if he was really crazy, what more could have happened. So I'm just thankful that it didn't progress in the way that it was looking to progress. You know, God, he just wants you to be honest with him. It's time to come out of hiding. One of my favorite songs right now, you know, that I sang a little bit in the beginning of, is, you know, Come Out of Hiding, the version that's by Ty Tribbett and all the other people. That it's time to come out of hiding. Like, God doesn't want you to hide. He doesn't want you to live in shame and in fear and in embarrassment and, you know, experience guilt. He wants you to bring him his shame, so that way he can exchange that shame for peace, and he can exchange that shame for love, because that is what I had needed. I just needed God to love on me and let me know, like, no, like, it wasn't your fault. Like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. We can talk about it. We can talk about what really happened. Like, you don't have to let the enemy make you feel like it was your fault and shame you about this. So I want to share with you guys a couple of scriptures that were really helpful for me, and I pray that they will be helpful for you. Psalms 34:4-5. I sought the Lord and he answered me. He delivered me from all of my fears. They looked to him and they were radiant. Their faces will never blush in shame or confusion. It's like when you just look upon, like, that one, it's like when you look upon God and you give him your issues, like, he's not going to make you feel shamed about it. He's not. Psalms 22:5. They cried out to you and they were delivered, and they pause. Hello? Yes, is the baby being born right now? Okay, then I'm gonna have to hold on, I'm gonna have to call you back because I'm in the middle of making a video. Then Psalms 22:5. They cried out to you and they were delivered. They trusted in you and they were not disappointed or ashamed. Isaiah 61:7. Instead of your shame, you will have a double portion. Instead of your humiliation, your people will shout for joy over their portion. And then Isaiah 54:4. Do not fear, for you will not be put to shame. And do not feel humiliated or ashamed, for you will not be disgraced. For you will forget the shame of your youth, and you will no longer remember the disgrace of your widowhood. Oh, those right there, like, even though initially I did not want to talk about it, even with God, like, once I finally, you know, opened up and talked about it, and I just finally just got it out and I accepted, you know, the truth, and I accepted what happened, it was so relieving. Like, I spent more energy holding on to it and living in shame than it was releasing it. And when I finally like let go of shame, and when I finally like kicked shame in the face, it just peace. And so now, you know, now that I'm, you know, going through this for, you know, the forgiveness process and the healing process, and now that I'm at the point to where I can openly talk about it, like, man, like I'm literally telling y'all all my business, like all my business. So when I say that she's been altered, I really mean that she has been altered, because I'm telling y'all all my business. There's like the biggest thing that I could hide or hold in, like I'm telling y'all all of it, because now I'm free from it. Like I'm healed from it. I'm not I've already moved like through the stages of forgiveness, and honestly now this is probably like one of the last and like final pieces of that, because like I said, if y'all want me to talk about forgiveness and different stages of forgiveness and how like I moved through all of these stages, you know, with this experience, let me know down in the comment section below and I'll make a video. But now, you know, my challenge I have two challenges. My first challenge is to those of you who may be hiding. You may be hiding something. You may be operating behind a mask, and it's not necessarily that you're hiding it from people, but more importantly that you're hiding it from God. You know, something that you feel shameful about, something that you don't want to talk about, something that may have happened in your childhood, something that may have happened a few weeks ago, a few months ago. Even if it's not something, you know, as traumatic, even if you just sinned and you just feel really shameful about, you know, the sin that you did, I challenge you to come out of that place of shame and give your shame to God. Just give it to him. Like, just journal about it, just talk about it. Like, take that first step. I know it's scary, I know that it's very, very vulnerable, but if you give it to God, I promise you that he will make something beautiful out of it. I promise you, mark my words, he will make something beautiful out of it, and he will give you peace, and he will give you love, and he will give you joy, and he will heal your heart, and you'll be healed starting from the inside out. And so my second challenge is to the answer of, you know, why don't people, you know, talk about it? A lot of times people don't talk about it because of y'all, and I'm not specifically saying anybody, but just I'm saying y'all as an umbrella, you know, culture, society, and the way that, you know, they automatically believe like, oh no, like she has to be lying about something, or she's making it up. I challenge you guys not to judge a story before you've even actually heard it, and even after you hear it, show compassion. Don't be one of those people with a stone in their hand ready to throw it at somebody. Like, you never know what was going on internally during somebody when they went through something. Like, you just don't know. So just don't be so quick to judge someone. Don't be so quick to, you know, blame them. Just don't do that. Like, that's my challenge to y'all. Like, have compassion. That's the challenge. Like, hashtag compassion. So the last thing I want to leave y'all with, I mean, the biggest question, how do you fight shame? You talk about it. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. I hold your peace. You've been on lockdown, but I hold your keys. 'Cause I loved you before you knew it was love. I saw it all, still I chose the cross. You were the one that I was thinking of when I rose from the grave. Now rid of the shackles, my victory is yours. I tore the veil for you to come close. There's no reason to stand at a distance anymore. You're already loved. I loved you before you knew it was love. I saw it all, still I chose the cross. You were the one that I was thinking of when I rose from the grave. Now rid of the shackles, my victory is yours. I tore the veil for you can come close. There's no reason to stand at a distance anymore. You're already loved. You're already loved, and so as your love. What hinders love will only become part of your story. You're already loved. I want you to know you're already loved. Said you're already loved. You don't have to be embarrassed or guilty, because guess what? Said you're already loved. He already made up his mind about you. Yeah, you're already loved. He loved me. Oh, how he loved me. Oh, how he loved me. Oh, how he loved. Yeah, he loved you. Oh, how he loved you. Oh, how he loved you. Oh, how he loved. He said he'll never leave you. I'm already loved. Say, I'm already loved. He makes me more than I'm already loved. You don't have to be ashamed. I'm already loved. Thank you, Jesus. Come out of hiding, you're already loved.